The Forfeited Contract, The Tale of Betrayal and Dark Descent. In the quiet town of Willowbrook, nestled between rolling hills and dense forests, lived a woman named Sandra. She was known as a healer. She was full of passion, joy despite the fact of her rough upbringing. She was a spiritual guide and a beacon of light in her community. People sought her out for her wisdom, her intuitive readings, and her ability to mend broken hearts. But beneath her serene exterior, Sandra harbored a deep pain, a wound that festered in the shadows of her soul. Sandra had once been a divine feminine, a high priestess in tune with the energies of the universe. She had a sacred contract with her ancestors, a promise to uphold the light and guide others toward their highest good, but life had other plans. A series of heartbreaks and betrayals left her feeling abandoned and powerless. She began to question her purpose, her gifts, and the very fabric of her existence. The temptation of darkness. One fateful evening, Sandra met a younger demonic jinn, Victor, a charismatic man who claimed to be a spiritual practitioner. He spoke of ancient rituals, hidden knowledge, and the power to control one's destiny. Victor was everything Sandra thought she needed: a mentor, a protector, and a friend. But Victor was no ordinary man. He was evil, a warlock, a master of dark magic who had made a pact with forces far beyond the mortal realm. Victor saw Evelyn's pain and recognized her vulnerability. He offered her a way out, a shortcut to power, love, and revenge. All she had to do was forfeit her divine ancestral contract and sign a new one, written in blood and bound by darkness. Desperate and blinded by her pain, Sandra agreed. She performed the ritual, chanting incantations she didn't fully understand, and drank a potion. Victor prepared a concoction of graveyard dirt, bones, and dark herbs. The descent into madness. At first, the power was intoxicating. Sandra felt invincible. She could manipulate people's emotions, bend them to her will, and exact revenge on those who had wronged her. But the power came at a cost. The potion Victor gave her was laced with a demonic entity, a parasitic force that fed on her pain and amplified her darkest desires. Slowly, Sandra began to lose herself. She started performing dark spellwork on anyone who crossed her path. She cursed her neighbors, broke up marriages, and even tried to control the town's most powerful men. Her once healing touch became a weapon, and her home a sanctuary of light transformed into a dark altar filled with voodoo dolls, blood offerings, and cursed objects. The reckoning. Sandra's downfall came when she targeted Daniel, a kind-hearted man who had recently moved to Willowbrook. Daniel was a divine masculine, a healer in his own right, and a man destined for greatness. Sandra became obsessed with him, convinced that he was her soulmate. She performed love spells, sex magic, and even death rituals to bind him to her. But Daniel was protected by forces far stronger than Sandra's dark magic. The spells backfired. Instead of falling under her control, Daniel experienced a spiritual awakening. He began to see through Sandra's illusions and recognize the darkness that had consumed her. He cut all ties with her, leaving her devastated and enraged. The exposure. Sandra's dark deeds didn't go unnoticed. The townspeople began to suspect her of witchcraft, and when she was evicted from her home, they discovered her dark altar. The sight of voodoo dolls, bloodstained jars, and cursed objects sent shockwaves through the community. Sandra's reputation was destroyed, and she became an outcast. But the worst was yet to come. The demonic entity Victor had planted inside her began to take full control. Sandra's mind fractured, and she became a shell of her former self. She wandered the streets, muttering incantations and cursing anyone who crossed her path. Her ancestors, disgusted by her actions, abandoned her, leaving her vulnerable to the dark forces she had invited into her life. The final betrayal. Victor, the man who had led her down this dark path, disappeared without a trace. He had used Sandra as a pawn in his own twisted game, transferring his karmic debt to her and leaving her to suffer the consequences. Sandra was left alone, trapped in a nightmare of her own making. The lesson. Sandra's story is a cautionary tale of what happens when we forfeit our divine contracts for quick fixes and dark promises. Her descent into darkness serves as a reminder that true power comes from within, and that no amount of spell work or manipulation can fill the void left by betrayal and pain. In the end, Sandra's fate was sealed. She became a warning to others, a living testament to the dangers of playing with forces beyond our understanding. And as the townspeople whispered her name in fear, They vowed never to stray from the light, for they knew the cost of stepping into the shadows.